So can you start off just by giving me a quick history of Spirit?
So Spirit was set up at the end of 2016 with an ambition, I suppose, back then to create a Moto 2 bike and maybe even to make a road-going version of that Moto 2 bike. Of course, then we entered the 2017 season to show that this Moto 2 bike was feasible at the right money and would be successful. And we did quite well. We had 4 wins, 3 thirds and 3 seconds, 3 thirds in the first season. It was a by invitation only championship, so we didn't get any points or prizes, but I think in that year we proved that you could make a Moto 2 bike for reasonable money and it was competitive, and we achieved that. We then raced again with a young lad called Thomas Strudwick in 2019 using an FTR motorcycle. But the view was to see if we could then take it a step further the following year by building our own bike with the help of the original designer of the FTR bikes, Steve Bones. So we did that over the winter of 2020 in time for starting the season last year with a brand new bike, the SP2, this bike behind us. Obviously we had a very successful half season. Because of COVID, obviously it was a shortened season. But I think in the end we had 4 wins, 7 podiums, and we won the championship by 22 points. So we were all very pleased that with a brand new bike, very limited testing due to the COVID situation, that we took that to a championship win in our first year, effectively. So that's a short-potted history for you.
What made you want to run a motorcycle racing team?
I think I kind of fell into it more than it was my dream or aspiration. I've been club racer myself in motorbikes when I was younger. I always enjoyed road racing and track circuit racing. But then an opportunity arose with someone to build this Moto 2 bike, so I invested in it, and it just sort of built from there. So it wasn't a long-term plan from childhood to be a team owner, but it's just worked out that way. But I'm very much enjoying it now, and we're looking forward to 21.
What did it mean to win the title? Everything that you've built up last year, what did it mean to win it?
Well, when you're in the thick of it, you're just sort of surviving weekend to weekend, solving problems, because we did have a lot of problems with a brand new bike. So you're not really thinking about it. But I think that last race weekend at Brands Hatch was quite emotional, because we did suddenly realise we were on the Saturday in with a chance of winning the championship. What does that mean? And of course, when you actually then do it, it takes a bit of time for it to sink in about how important, how significant that championship win is. And it has been. It's been a really fundamental change since then. We've been contacted by lots of people within the industry who wouldn't necessarily have thought of us before. We've had former MotoGP world champions ring us. We've had British MotoGP riders talk to us. So I think winning that British Championship has sort of given us a slightly higher profile, but it's given us credibility. Because everyone knew the bike was good, because its DNA was FTR and Steve Bones, so we knew we had a good starting point, but you still have to prove it. And Moto 2 paddock, it wasn't gifted to us. I mean, the other bikes are a lot maturer in development with some very good riders. So it was by no means an easy thing to achieve. So looking back, it was a much bigger achievement than I anticipated it would be. And, I think both Steve and I look at it now and go, yeah, that was quite something. That was quite something to achieve in a first real attempt.
Can you run us through your emotions in the Brands Saturday race?
Oh. Well, I couldn't even be on the pit lane wall. There was so much anxiety that weekend. I didn't want to be on the grid because Mason was under a lot of pressure. He obviously had to win both races for us to win the championship. So the Saturday race, we hadn't qualified particularly well. I just stayed. I stayed at the end of the paddock straight and watched them come around Paddock Hill Bend. I wasn't even with the team. My brother and I, in fact, watched. And we couldn't actually see that last moment when Mason just got his wheel ahead of Jack Scott to get the win, to make it a possible championship that weekend. So it was highly charged emotionally, quite draining. Even when we crossed the line, it was that delay of, well, have we done enough? So we ran to the pit lane and we found out he did win it by 13 thousandths or something. It was ridiculously, it's like that. It was nothing. So, but it was enough. And a win is a win. It was an awful situation. It was like being an expectant father in the maternity wing.
What's your target for this season then?
Well, look, when you go racing, you don't race to come second. So we'd like to win the British Championship again. It's a big ask. It's a full season this year. Obviously, the bike's a bit maturer now. We've developed the bike a bit since last year. We've fixed a few of the problems we've had. So we're hoping the bike will run well. Clearly, we've got Mason riding again, so he's going to be very keen to show it wasn't a fluke last season. It definitely wasn't. And of course, Jamie Perrin will also be joining us, and he's going to be very keen. I think it's the first time he's ever had a full team behind him, where he can really show, I hope, what talent he has. So we want to win. We definitely want to win a championship again.
Domination?
Well, I don't know if we're going to dominate. I think we've got some very good riders out there. And I think you've got the Saxelby team particularly will be strong this year. You can't write off any of the other teams. They're all strong and everyone's got good riders. But I do think we have a very strong team with Mason and Perrin together and the bike more developed and more mature. We've learnt a lot as a team too. I mean, we started with absolutely nothing last year. We didn't have a truck, we didn't have an awning, we didn't have a bike. We made the bike, we found a truck. We're that much further along, we can now focus on actually results. So we're hoping we'll be very strong from day one, but we don't know what everyone else has been doing over the winter either. So we'll do our best and we hope that's enough to get another championship.
What are your aspirations going forward beyond this season?
Well, for me, I would like to move into the European Championship. We're already in discussions with people about how we could put together a team based out in Spain to do a full CEV Moto2, or what they call now the European Moto2 Championship. That would be hopefully for next season, 2022. We may, if we can, organise it, send 2 bikes over to enter the last 2 rounds at this year's championship in Spain. Obviously, it's an objective. Whether we can do that or not, we don't know. But we think we might be able to wild card with a former British MotoGP rider, hopefully taking the helm to be fast enough to hopefully do well, and if we do well in that, to continue then into 2022 with a team based down in Barcelona.
And just how important is this year for those plans?
Well, it's all credibility. I mean, if we did very poorly this year, when people think, well, what happened in 2020? Was that actually just accidental? Was it only because it was a half season? So we want to put those question marks out of everyone's mind. You know, we turn up in 21, we do a really good job, we're a professional team, the bike's good, the riders are excellent, there's a good morale and dynamic within the team. So it's not a fluke. This is because we work very hard and we've got very professional people, and that usually gets you results. So just to reinforce what we did before and show that it wasn't a fluke, and also build our credibility for Dorna and the other promoters in the other championship, because they'll be looking at our track record. So hopefully we'll impress enough to earn us a place on the European Moto2 grid.